Hello and welcome to Russ Plays Games. My name is Russ, and as you can see, I am sitting in front of my movie corner. I have my Prince of Persia movie here because I'm talking video games today. And interestingly enough, the video games that I'm going to be talking about are not actually video games. What they are, and you'll probably hear me clicking this thing, is I'm going to be talking about the LCD handheld video game. Now, LCD handheld video games work in a different way. Most people don't really understand how they work or what they do or anything like that. So today, we're actually going to be talking about that. So what is an LCD game? Well, an LCD is one of these, okay? It's the actual display that you can see here. And what you do is when you press a certain number, like a 3, you can see that the 3 shows up. Okay, if I press a 5, you can see that a 5 shows up. Now, why is this important? Well, so basically, handheld games had been popular for a while. In fact, there was actually a number of electronic handheld games in the kind of early to mid 70s, okay? And they were basically like, if you've ever seen the Mattel electronic football or the Coleco electronic football, where they were basically like little LED lights, and when you turn it on, it just had these little LED lights, and then you move the LED lights and it would tell you where you're going and how you're doing and all this kind of stuff. And basically, in 1979, there was a Nintendo executive by a man by the name of Gunpei Yokoi. And he's a very famous Nintendo executive. He actually kind of pioneered the entire genre of how people see Nintendo and doing all of that kind of stuff. Well, he was riding on a bullet train playing with a pocket calculator. And he wondered if he could take some of the properties that they were developing at Nintendo and put them on a little handheld thing like this. Okay? Let me grab my bigger one here, because basically I have a much bigger calculator here that has a little flip-up screen to it, so you can set it down and do all that kind of stuff. I did it just for kind of illustrative purposes, okay? So again, how liquid crystal display works is that inside this little screen, okay, there are various shadows, and I don't know if it's going to be easy to see, but yeah, it's kind of not easy to see, but if you can kind of see where it's like when it turns a little bit, you can kind of see the number kind of change. So basically what that is that every single bit of the 0 there, you can see is its own little segment, okay? So if I press 1, okay, it lights up 2 of them. Okay, just on the one side, it just lights up 2 little spaces. Okay, if I press 8, it lights up every single one of them. And now there's also a little dot just to the side of that. Okay, that's the actual thing. So if I press 0.13, see, it moves that dot over 2 spaces, okay, because I pressed 0.03. So basically, what it was is that he noticed that using math, okay, using different mathematical operations, you could do a lot with a pocket calculator, right? Okay, you can do a lot with a pocket calculator. And so what he thought was, well, what if we were to take those things and put them into a little case that you could fold up, slip in your pocket, and take it with you. And when you were on the train or when you were sitting on the bus or whatever, you could play your little game in your pocket. And so Nintendo came up with a thing called a Game & Watch. And that's the reason why I bought this little foldable pocket calculator, is because I wanted to kind of demonstrate that this was the idea that Nintendo was going for when they decided to create their Game & Watch. Okay? Because the Game & Watch system was designed to be foldable so that you could slip it inside a pocket, or you could slip it inside a bag, do something like that, and it goes inside, and then, you just slip it out, pop it open, and start playing. Okay? Now, I have looked high and low for Nintendo's Game & Watch, and oh my god, are they expensive. The aftermarket on those are super duper expensive. Now, basically, what they had done is they had created like multi-screen Game & Watch games. So, like, for instance, when you play like The Legend of Zelda, it has like a top screen and it has like a bottom screen. And each screen, you do something on each screen, and you go around and you fight monsters and you do things, and you go to the next screen up, and then you go do something there, you fight a boss, or you do something, then you come back to the bottom screen and you go do that. And so they were trying to take advantage of that. Now, in the 1980s, LCD technology quickly became the technology of choice for a lot of companies. In fact, Game Boy, the original Game Boy, actually uses an LCD screen, okay? Liquid crystal display screen, okay? And basically what a liquid crystal display does, and I was trying to explain this. So basically what happens is, up here on the top, okay, where you have this this little screen up here, okay, where the numbers appear. So if I press it again, you see the 0. Okay, where that number appears, okay, what happens is that there's two little currents that run to it, and it basically jolts those in between, okay, and it puts on the number. So again, if I press the number 1, okay, and then you can see that it switched to the number 1. When I did that, what happened is that it changed. So when I press the number 1, it changes the 0, okay, lighting up all of the outside rings, to just lighting up one thing. If I press 2, then it moves the 1 over 1, and then it moves the 2 in place. And then if I press the 3, okay, and then the 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, I know I didn't get a 4 in there, but that's okay. It's only an 8-digit display anyway. But you can kind of see where each number, okay, lights up in a specific pattern. And that's because when you press it, there's a little controller chip inside, okay, there's a little circuit board inside, and it basically knows, oh, I'm pressing, I'm pressing 5. Okay, so for instance, if I press 5, the calculator goes, oh, he's pressing 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, right? So basically what it does is then it just lights up however many of those lights it needs to light, okay, or these little things that it needs to light across, okay? And basically what that does is it creates a specific sequence. And so what Gunpei Yokoi thought was, well, what if we etched our own little designs, use the liquid crystals inside those designs to light up on command, so that if I press a certain button, say right, the sprite character will move to the right. Or if I press left, he'll move to the left. If I press up, he'll move up. If I press down, he'll move down. Unless you're at the bottom of the screen, then you have to define what the bottom, what the edges, and all that kind of stuff is. And it's very easy to do. And it was very easy to program. They found that it was very easy to program a simplistic AI, basically, for monsters and, for different things, so that you could play a game on the go without having to spend a whole bunch of money. And what that ended up doing, what the Game & Watch system did, is that it showed Nintendo that there was a market for a portable gaming system, okay, in Japan. And then, over here in America, okay, there was a company by the name of Tiger Electronics. You probably know Tiger, and if you don't know Tiger, you probably have heard of it, at least if you've been watching The Angry Video Game Nerd in the last, 5 years, I would say. Because I think it was about 5 years ago that he did an episode on Tiger video games. And even if you haven't, if you watched his Mortal Kombat Ports episode, you at least saw the Mortal Kombat Tiger Electronic game and the Barcodes version, okay? And so basically what ended up happening, and like I've said before, what ended up happening is that over here the Game & Watch games didn't sell that well, but the Tiger games sold magnificently well, because what Tiger did is they went to companies like Konami, and they went to companies like, Acclaim, and HAL Laboratories, and all these different... They went to basically everybody that was producing video games at the time, and they said, hey, we want to make a handheld version of a game, a popular game that you're putting out right now. And they said, perfect, go for it. And so they did. And so the Tiger Handheld game was born, okay? Now, what a Tiger Handheld game is it's basically, you have two batteries up here, okay? And you have a series of buttons across the bottom, and usually you have an on start, and then you have a select, which is usually your level select or your character select. And then you have a sound, which turns the sound on or off. Usually it's a bunch of bleeps and blips. And you have an off button, which turns the unit off. And then you have, generally, some kind of directional pad on one side. And on the other side, you have a series of buttons. Okay? And on this particular game, this is Gauntlet. Okay? This is the original Gauntlet from Atari. Okay? Awesome game, by the way. This game is excellent. This is one of my favorite games on the Tiger platform, is because it is so cool. Like, I don't know if you can really see it, but basically in the background there, let me see if I can try to get a good picture. So basically, if you can kind of see in the background, like, there's this big field here in the front with all these rocks, and then in the background, way in the back, there's like a little castle, okay? It's kind of hard to see, but there's a little castle way back there in the distance, okay? That's your objective. So generally what it was is that there was a static background, okay, that they would put in the back, okay? And so in between where the background is and the front little plate here that has a little plastic covering on it is where the actual LCD is sandwiched, okay? Now, down over here next to the on button, there's a little tiny button labeled ACL. Okay, I don't know if you can kind of see that little tiny button. You usually have to get like a pencil, like a mechanical pencil or like a ballpoint pen, and you have to push it. And you have to like push it really hard, okay? But if you do that, it erases your entire score, okay? And it actually will bring up every single sprite that is etched onto the screen, okay? And the interesting thing about the different sprites is that they have different moves. So, like, they will move right, they will move left, they'll move up and down or whatever, like they have different moves. Especially in, like, this game, as you move, they have different blocks that light up in different ways to make a maze. Okay, so and as you move through the maze, the different blocks light up, and then different little monsters will light up, and they'll just move back and forth and up and down and all this kind of stuff. And you can choose. This was something I didn't even realize until I'd owned this game for about 6 months, was that you could actually choose between the warrior and the Valkyrie on this game. They actually had 2 different characters that you could be. So if you push the select at the beginning of the game, it actually selects the different character. And you go, now wait a minute. That's interesting. How in the hell did they do that? Well, say hello to the Tiger Electronic LCD Handheld video games. Okay? These things are phenomenal. They really are. Okay? Now, after a while, because of Tiger's huge success, eventually other companies started jumping on the bandwagon. And one of the first companies to jump on the bandwagon, because of the success of Tiger's Simon's Quest and Ninja Gaiden and a few others I could name, and Gauntlet and a few others I could name, Konami jumped on the bandwagon with their version of the LCD handheld video game. Well, I say handheld video game. It's a handheld game. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is Contra. You can see there that you have the little thing. Now, you can see that the static image in the back is like a little corridor. Okay? Now, this game is interesting, and it has a very similar button layout to what the Tiger games have. So you have over here, starting over here, you have on start. This button is not used. This is your sound, and then this is your off button, and then this is your all clear, which is, you push it, it lights up everything on the screen and deletes all your progress. The only difference is that these games were a little bit more simplistic in nature, whereas, like, on this game, you are actually kind of relegated down here to the very bottom edge of the screen, where you have 4 planes that you can move on. So you have this, like, leftmost plane, and then you go 2, and then you come up here towards the top. Okay, so you kind of go back and forth between, you kind of go in this kind of a pattern, okay, on the background. It's like, it's kind of hard to see, but basically, yeah, you kind of go like that, about a 30-degree angle, okay, and everything comes at you, and then there's like these little like missiles that come down and hit you, and you get 3 lives, 1 hit kills, just like Contra on the NES, but it's fun. Okay, in fact, just recently I almost made it to the final boss. I was like, it's awesome. This game's fun, okay? And what's really cool is that you can see that this one has 2 little buttons, 2 little knobs. That's your left and right, okay? And then this is your fire button, okay? Now, typically, with a lot of these LCD games, okay, and this, I'm not going to have every single game tonight. I'm just kind of giving you a basic history, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some reviews, okay? And if you want to see me do more reviews, if you have some games that you want to see me do, give me a shout out, okay? Drop it in the comments section below. Let me know what you think, okay, of these games. But anyway, so Konami jumped on board. They did Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. They did Top Gun. They did Contra. They did Blades of Steel. They did, I think, Bucky O'Hare. They did a Double Dribble game. So they had all these different games, okay, that they created. Now, the next one to jump on the bandwagon was a company that a lot of people recognize, okay, and they'll probably, they'll see this and they're going to go, now, wait a minute, I had one of those, but I never knew what it was because I didn't know what company it was from. This is the Acclaim LCD Handheld. This is Total Recall, based on the 1990 movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Now, what's interesting is, okay, this game has, I think, 5 levels. I've gotten to level 4. That's how good I am at this game, okay? But now, you'll notice that with this game, okay, there's only a, there's only a sound on-off, and then a select on button, and then a start action button, and then there's the little ACL, which, causes everything to come on, and then you can see the little thing. And what's interesting is you move around this little area right here, okay? And you have to do 3 different things in this game, okay? You have to push a switch. You have to push a switch over here. You have to flip a switch over here. You have to grab one air tank here, one air tank up here. You have to grab a card from here, okay, like a little card from here, and then right on this little tiny spit right there, you have to run up a little thing, okay. All the while, you have to avoid all these different guys, and you can grab a holographic watch. And if you have a holographic watch, if you tap the action button twice while you have the watch, then it basically gives you an extra hit, okay. So when you take a hit, you're not going to do anything, okay? Now, what's interesting about this is that a company called Micro Games of America, and we'll get to them in a little bit. I forgot to bring one, but that's okay. They basically got the license to produce some Star Wars games, okay? So they basically produced 3 Star Wars games based around the original trilogy. And they called them Star Wars and then Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, okay? Each one was a little bit different. And I have all 3, basically. Well, I shouldn't say I have all 3. I think I have 2 of them, basically. I have the original Star Wars, and I have Return of the Jedi. I need to get Empire Strikes Back. But I have all 3 games, just ones in a little bit different form. And I'll explain how that works when I get to the MGAs. Because like I said, I didn't bring them all out here. My bad. But when Micro Games of America lost the license to produce their Star Wars games in the mid to late 90s, Tiger went back out and purchased the actual, they went out and purchased the license to make Star Wars games. And they started making their own Star Wars games. Now what's interesting is you can kind of see that the directional pad on this one has a little bit of a different look to it, right? It's got a little hole in the middle and it's got a little thing. There's also one big button that says fire, okay? It's because in this, you are in a TIE fighter, and you basically just kind of fly around and you blow away Trillion Corvettes and X-Wings and Y-Wings and all sorts of stuff. It's really cool. It's a lot of fun. Here again, very, very fun. But what this game did, okay, and you can kind of see that on top there's these 2 little pegs, and before there was something that was hooked into it. What was that little something? One of these little guys. Now, when we get into more of the Star Wars games from Tiger, we'll get into some of these. But this was kind of the first one that they made. It was called Imperial Assault. Okay? And it had this little Darth Vader figure. And what you did is you slotted it in like a joystick. Okay? So you could move things around kind of like a joystick. Okay? So while you're sitting there playing, you have a little joystick that you can move the directional pad around like that. Okay? Like a joystick. Okay? And then, when you're done, you just clip him back onto the top, right into those little pegs. Okay? But then they went, because this came out in 1997. Now let me see here. What came out 2 years after that? Oh, Star Wars Episode 1. And so what ended up happening was that Tiger got the idea that this sold actually fairly well, and they went, wow, we could totally capitalize on this. Hey guys, got an idea. And so they went out and they basically, like, they made little episode 1 games that had little... one was like a battle for Naboo, and so you had a Gungan and a battle droid, which I have, and I'll show you. And then another one was one that was like Qui-Gon and Darth Maul. And, you know, so it had like a little Qui-Gon and a little Darth Maul, and it had like a little duel. Okay? And also, you've probably seen me, you know, look with these things around, but I do have an in the box, on the card, okay, mint on the card, lightsaber duel game where you actually play. You can play as Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon, or both at the same time. You have 5 stages in each of 3 game modes. You swing the lightsaber and see the character react on the screen. You feel the power of the Force as you swing your weapon. It has digitized speech and sound from the new Star Wars film. But basically, this was something that they were trying to capitalize on, which was motion controls, where you literally swing the lightsaber, okay, back and forth to get your character to move on screen. So instead of having an actual, like, it has a little thing, but when you want to attack, you have to physically swing the lightsaber back and forth, okay? So instead of having a button that you would push to make it, you know, go and attack, you had to, you know, swing the lightsaber. Now, I have an episode 2 lightsaber that has a little cone up here, a little blue cone, but it looks like Anakin's lightsaber from episode 2, okay? And so when we get to that, I'll show you kind of how this works. Because I'm going to do some things where I show people how things work. Now, I don't actually have any of the barcode games. Now, what the barcode games were was... this was kind of a revolutionary idea that Tiger thought of. And they basically thought, well, what if we, like, created a little pack of cards that people could buy, and on the back was a little barcode, and you could scan it through the top of the game, and it would tell you, like, it would give you something, right? And so they had a series of games called Barcods, or Barcodes, which was BARCODZZ, okay? Trying to, you know, because it's the 90s. That's how they did things back then. Don't ask me. It was the same way that they called Mortal Kombat combat with a K, right? Okay. So then a lot of people are probably wondering, okay, well then, you know, what else were Tiger doing? Well, Tiger also decided, well, what if we made something that you could use as 2 toys in one? One that you could play with using your imagination, and another you could play a physical game. Enter the Millennium Falcon. This is the Tiger Electronic Millennium Falcon Challenge. And you're probably wondering, well, where's the game? Come on, man. I mean, I see that there's something there. There has to be something somewhere. Well, my friend, it's right there. There's the game. So basically what you did is you popped open the game, okay? And you set it against the back like that. So you pop the cover off. And you held onto it like so. And then you play the game. And you have your on, start, off, sound, and pause. You actually have a pause in this one. And then you have buttons labeled A, B, C, and D. Okay? And then you have a thing. And then you have a little space with some planets in the background, and then a little area up in the top, which is where your score goes. The little red box is where your score goes. And this is called the Millennium Falcon Challenge. And you're probably saying, well, that sounds kind of familiar. Where have I seen that before? Well, it's probably because when Tiger released their R-Zone, they realized that they could capitalize on the success of the then popular Star Wars, with the hype surrounding and coming up to the new movie. to release that on the R-Zone. Yes, folks, the R-Zone had Millennium Falcon Challenge, and that is what it actually looks like. Okay? So basically, yeah, you have like a little thing, and you have your Millennium Falcon up here that you're flying around in, and each of the little buttons shoots, okay? And then you can see that at the time, they had two little things, okay? This is the head strap unit that you've probably seen if you watched the AVGN episode. But then there's this thing over here, which you've probably never seen before. Which you're probably going, well, I don't know what that is. I've never seen that before. What is it? Well, because the game itself had been because the unit itself had been such a flop, okay, the head strap unit, and because the Virtual Boy had flopped, people were kind of gun-shy about purchasing something that they were going to, like, strap around their head and wear out in public. So they decided that they wanted to make a unit that was going to be a lot more compact. Enter the XPG. That's right, folks. This is the Tiger R-Zone Extreme Pocket Game. Now, what this is it's basically the head strap unit, okay? But you're probably thinking, well, then where do you view the game? Right there. Because what happens is that the actual game, okay, I don't know if you can kind of see down in there. Let me grab my little light here. You can kind of see down in there where the game is, okay? And basically what happens is that there's a light right here, okay? And when you take the cartridge, this is the game cartridge itself, when you take this game cartridge and you pop it down inside, okay, it automatically activates the light. It automatically turns on the system, okay? And then the system is reflected off of this thing. Now, what you're probably wondering, what in the hell does this guy have a CD inside this thing for? Well, you see, I bought this thing used, but the guy that had it, okay, the guy that owned it before me, kept it in a shed. So normally what is supposed to happen is there's actually supposed to be a red reflective screen right here, okay? And what happens is that this red light, okay, shines through the lens, okay? So it shines through basically that, okay? So what you're seeing here is you're seeing that this, okay, is being made solid, and how it's showing as dark is because it's against the light background, okay? And what ended up happening is that Tiger figured out that if they put this thing together, okay, and they stuck it in there, then basically, let me see if I can gently pull this sucker out. They found, and I don't know if you can kind of see, I don't know if it's real clear, but basically, and yes, this is Panzer Dragoon from Sega. There was two versions of this game made, one for the R-Zone and one for and then they had one that was on a like a little, they called it a Sega arcade, and basically what it was is you flip this little cover over and you could lay it down on a table and then you could play the game right there, okay? But it's literally Panzer Dragoon. I mean, it is, and it's probably my new favorite frickin' R-Zone game. Like, I love this game. But if you want the Sega arcade, like, this one's pretty expensive for the R-Zone, but the Sega arcade one is actually even more rare, and it's more expensive. So, just know that if you're going to try to get Panzer Dragoon, it is expensive. Let me just say that much. But basically what happens is that it shines the light through the the thing, okay, kind of like that, okay? It shines a light through like that, okay? And then it basically reflects the light onto, you can kind of see on my fingers there. It kind of reflects the light onto your fingers, okay? So that's what it does, okay? So the light shines through here, and basically the illuminated LCD part goes up and onto the screen, okay? And so just like with Millennium Falcon Challenge, where we have the 4 buttons over here labeled A, B, C, D, on this one they're labeled A, B, C, D, okay? And then all along the bottom there's on, there's start, select, sound, pause, and off, okay? All of those little buttons down across there, okay? So starting over here starts with on, and then it goes to start, and then select, and then sound, and then pause, and then off, okay? And then it has the speakers built in right here, and then of course you have your directional pad here, okay? Now what's really cool is that once you figure out what all the little buttons do, okay, because they're not always that intuitive, but once you figure out what all the little buttons do, the whole thing becomes gravy. I mean, the game becomes so much more fun. So like with Millennium Falcon Challenge, like, I believe it's C and B, like, fire these, like, 2 lasers that go out, and it's like it hits like 90% of the things on the screen. So that's the only 2 buttons I ever use when I'm playing the game. And like, you know, with Panzer Dragoon here, you have to push a certain button, and I believe it's D, and that like changes your view, your facing. Because if you've ever seen Panzer Dragoon, so you're this guy sitting on top of a dragon that's flying through the sky, right? Okay? And literally the game is you have to switch your facing so that you can see these monsters flying next to you, and then you have to shoot them with these lasers. Well, you do the same thing in this game. It is phenomenal. They were able to translate that to a handheld game. How? I mean, like, that is phenomenal. So let me see here. I don't know if it's... I think the batteries are dying in this. But basically, I mean, you can kind of see how the game looks there. Okay. It's hard because I got, you know, the screen is real bright, and so it's kind of hard to see. But basically, there's a little dragon down at the bottom, and when you change facing, the dragon actually changes. So he'll change to like a little thing with like a little wing, and then when you go to the tail, it'll be like just a little bit of the body with the tail dragging off. And then when you go to the other side, the wing will be on the other side, and then when you come back to the front, you see the whole dragon. It's very crazy, like, playing this game and thinking that, my God, somebody played that game on the Sega Dreamcast and went, you know, I think we could put this on a Tiger handheld. And it worked. You would think, oh my God, that is the worst. That is the most boring game ever. But it's fun as hell. This is one of the things that I keep coming back to these games, is they're entertaining as hell. Okay? I've had a lot of fun playing those games over the years. Okay? And I have to say that I really enjoy playing these games. I don't play them all the time. But, like, lately, I mean, here's the thing, okay? I had this game in, like, 91 or 92, okay? Because the movie came out in 1990, and the game came out shortly thereafter in 91, I think. And so this came hot on the heels of that, and my parents bought it for me for my birthday or Christmas or something. And I played the hell out of this game. And I got so good that I could get to the 4th level before I started running into trouble. Okay? And after having not played this game for like 20 or 30 years now, I think it's been about 30 years since I played this game. Okay? Because it was middle 90s and it's now 2023. I just got this game like not 2 weeks ago. Sat down, threw some batteries in it, popped it on, started playing it, and I got to level 4. I still remembered the patterns. I still remembered what to do. I mean, it was like instinctual. And I'm just sitting there just doot, 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 doot. And I'm like, okay, past level 1, that was easy. Yeah, level 2's getting a little harder. Oh yeah, there we go. There's the challenge. There's level 3. Oh yeah. And then I get to level 4, and then I started getting my ass handed to me, and I'm like, okay, now I remember the difficulty spike. Now I remember that difficulty spike. But it was just so much fun, you know. Now, one of the things I don't have are the little wrist games that Tiger came out with back in the late 80s to early 90s. They came out like a Batman, they came out with like a Double Dragon, they came out with a couple of other ones. Excuse me. I don't have any of those. Okay? And right now my selection is fairly limited. But this is going to kind of be an ongoing series. And as I can, I'm going to pick up a few. Now, if you're not familiar with a lot of the games, interesting note, Hasbro, who bought Tiger, bought Tiger Electronics, looked out on eBay because they'd heard that people were still looking for these LCD electronic games. And they went, really? So they went back and they put out Sonic 3, Transformers, like The Little Mermaid, and like one other one. And like they sold out. People just bought them. I mean, and they were like, "Holy crap!" So they've been remaking some newer, they've been remaking some games. Okay, and what's happening is that people are going out, they're buying the new ones. Okay, and they're sticking them out there because they look almost exactly the same as like this. Okay. They're in this same kind of a case, okay? And what they're doing is they're taking them and they're so like, for instance, the Sonic 3. People are taking them and putting them out on eBay and saying, "Original Sonic 3, it works." And then they'll bump the price up. So you need to be very, very careful. Especially if it doesn't have a lot of pictures that show the backside. Okay? And I know it's kind of hard to see, but on the backside of this unit, there's a little plate. There's a little thing right here. Let me pop this down for a second. Let me see if we can't get this going. You can kind of see that there's a little bit of an indentation right here. Okay? And in that indentation, the first thing that it will say, like this one says, copyright 1988 Tiger Electronics Inc. Okay? And sometimes right below, it's kind of hard to see, but right below, right there, I know it's kind of hard to see, but a lot of times it will say, Gauntlet, copyright 1985, Tengen, all rights reserved. Okay? Because it's, showing the thing on it. Okay, that. And what'll happen is that because Sega of America has renewed their patent on Sonic, it will not say copyright like 1993 Sonic. It will say like copyright 2007 2016 or 2019 or something like that, Sonic, okay? So that's what you want to look for, okay? And if you see something, then push back on the seller, okay? Send the seller or send eBay and say somebody is selling a modern, version with, saying it's the original version, okay? So that people know, okay? And so that the sellers, the eBay, knows, okay? So that they can try to crack down on people, trying to capitalize on the popularity of these older games by buying the new ones and then selling them on eBay and advertising them as the original. Because they're not the original. Even though they're almost the exact same machine. If you bought the Sonic 3 and you bought the old one from the 90s and you bought the new one from today and you were to play them, they're almost identical. The difference is going to be in the back where it says copyright, 1993, I think, from Tiger, and then the other one will say copyright like 2019 or 2020. Tiger or Hasbro, I think, probably Hasbro instead of Tiger, because Tiger's no longer around. Now, they might be using the Tiger label to try to cater to people like me who grew up with these games. Okay, so let's quickly talk in the last couple minutes here, and then I'll end the video. I know I went off on it, but I get excited about this kind of stuff. I wanted to talk really fast about why were these things so popular and so prevalent? Okay, why did everybody have one of these growing up? Because I can guarantee you, unless you were, from a family of means, or, your family would save money to buy things during the holidays, so you would get something like, because like my family, my parents never went extravagant. Like, we had one Nintendo. I never got the Super Nintendo until I turned like 16, I think, like 15 or 16. Then I finally bought my first Super Nintendo used. So my parents were very frugal. I didn't have a Game Boy growing up, okay, until like 1996, I think, was the first time 1997, I think. Maybe 98. I can't remember. But anyway, it was a long time after, because it came out in 1989, and I didn't get one until like the late 90s. So like a decade on, I finally got a Game Boy. So when you would go on car trips, when you would go to places, when you would go do things, what did you get? Because you didn't have a Game Boy, you didn't have a Game Gear, you didn't have anything like that. What did you have? You had these bad boys, okay? And so you literally had to sit there and learn how to play these, and you got pretty damn good at playing these. And that's why they're so nostalgic, is because people remember. And the other thing is that if you bought a Game Boy, okay, back in the day, you would buy a Game Boy. They were like $150 to $200 base. That was just the unit with Tetris, okay? And then each game on top of that was anywhere between $20 and $60. These were like 15 to 20. So let me see here. You buy a unit for $150, and then the games are on top of that, or 15 to 20 bucks. Plus, as James Rolfe said, they were easy for birthday presents. You also had, the box art. Okay? And a lot of times, they cram the plot into these things. You're like, how the hell did they do that? It's like, holy crap. I'm gonna show you some of these, and you're gonna go, no way did they no, what? How in the hell? Like, here's an interesting thing. So in 1997, a little known Konami game was produced for the PlayStation. Okay? radically changed how people played Castlevania. It was called Castlevania Symphony of the Night. And you would think, my God, there's no freaking way that you could take that game, which takes 20 hours to complete, and turn it into a little Tiger handheld. But they did it. And they did it quite convincingly, too. Because they even got, some of the things, like leveling up. Like when you kill a certain number of enemies, you level up, you gain more health, you gain better abilities, you can get weapons, you can change your weapons, you can get new secondary weapons to throw, you can turn into different things. Like, there's so many features that they crammed into that damn game. I'm like, what the hell? And it is one of the rarest Tiger games out there. I would love to get my hands on one, but they are so friggin' expensive. They're like $150 to $200 a piece for those things right now. And they are super rare. They only pop up every once in a while. Okay? I mean, it's like, I literally, there's a couple of Castlevania websites out there that one of them actually has a really good, Castlevania timeline. It goes down and it goes through each and every single one of the Castlevania games. Okay, from, the very first chronological game, okay, all the way through till Dawn of Sorrow. Yeah. I think that was the one that was on the 3D or the 2DS. And of course the Lords of Shadow games are different, okay? But this website has a thing on the LCD handhelds that were made. So it has one on Castlevania 2 Simon's Quest, which I have, and then it has one on Castlevania Symphony of the Night. And when you read what they crammed in a Symphony of the Night, you're going to go, no flippin' way. There's no way that they could have crammed that much onto that tiny little LCD handheld on that little tiny screen. But they did it. It's flippin' amazing. I'm like, there's no flippin' way. Oh, man. It's like, the possibilities are out there, okay, for these games, all right? And so as we go through some of these games, just keep that in mind. And I will also kind of talk a little bit about some of the LED games, because I have one of them, mostly because I had this same one growing up. So it was kind of nostalgic to go buy it. I was like, when I found out they brought it back out, I was like, no way! I used to play with that in the car. Parents hated it. Because all they'd hear is this, deet, 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 as you're running along. And they're like, shut that thing off. I'm like, no, I'm almost gonna score! So we'll kind of talk about some of that stuff, and we'll talk about some different things. So smash that like button, hit subscribe, drop a comment below, let me know what you think, and let me know if you're as excited as I am about going on this little journey about discovering some of the things that are going to be happening in these games, because I think some of them I'm probably going to, like with my Teat Rhythm Final Fantasy Curtain Call LP, I think I'm probably going to have some footage where I'm actually going to be intercutting a few things here and there. So I'll talk about it, and then we'll see some footage of it, and then I'll come back and kind of give some final thoughts on it. Okay? I think that's going to kind of be the thing. Now, I do have my Sword and Sorcery LP. It's coming. I just recently got out all of my Sword and Sorcery stuff. I read back up on the rules. I'm going to keep on reading the rules so that I don't forget shit. and I'm going to keep on moving, I'm going to keep on getting stuff done. I need to get my thing cleared off. Like right now I'm looking at it, it is just full of stuff. And so I need to get it cleared off, and I need to kind of move some things around, and I need to get it kind of nice and neat and ready to go. And then once we do that, we'll get it set up, and we will start on the Sword and Sorcery LP. Plus, I did get, I put this in my previous video, but I did get, like I said, I got the Batman, I got Mortal Kombat, I got Shang-Chi and Legend of the Ten Rings, and I got Thor Love and Thunder. So once I get those watched, I'll sit down and kind of do some DVD reviews, and I still need to finish up the Spider-Man Retrospective. So here's Spider-Man No Way Home. And so I'll probably get those filmed this week and try to get them up within the next couple weeks. So keep it locked here at Russ's Movie Corner and Russ Plays Games. And as we love to say, we will see you